I don't want him to be in trouble. I don't want him to go to jail.
And then Nick pulled the trigger and shot him right in the stomach.
And Nick got up out of the car and he shot him.
I can't just pull the trigger on somebody. I'm standing there in like shock, like what the fuck?
He wanted a little community of slow killers. Oh my gosh, this is so crazy that he's being accused of this.
A young man embarks on a cross-country journey, driven by the hope of finding a fresh start. He carries an unwavering optimism, believing that this journey is his opportunity to set things right for his family, sensing a crucial moment on the horizon. However, little does he know his path is destined for an unforeseen twist. Soon, it will meet with an individual of such a wicked nature that they would eventually be labeled as a potential precursor to a serial killer. On June 17, 2017, 18-year-old Hunter Tash Smith left his Junction City, Oregon home, bound for Nebraska. He had a promising job opportunity there that would enable him to provide for his infant daughter. To keep his family from worrying, he had led them to believe he would be taking a Greyhound bus for his journey. However, in reality, he chose to hitchhike. 3 days later, on June 20th, he provided an update to a friend in Nebraska with whom he had planned to stay upon his arrival. He was then in Burns, Oregon, and mentioned that he was catching a bus to Idaho. Around the same time, Hunter's aunt, Raquel Messer, received a message that a friendly couple had picked him up. This couple had shown remarkable kindness by allowing Hunter to spend the night in their home, giving him a chance to freshen up and have a comfortable night's rest. The arrangement was that they would drop him off at the Ontario, Oregon bus station the next day. However, from that point on, all contact with Hunter abruptly ceased. In the following month, August, Hunter's friend in Nebraska reached out to Hunter's mother, Heather Smith, expressing concern. Several weeks had passed without any communication from Hunter. Without hesitation, Hunter's family initiated the process of filing a missing persons report. As the days turned into weeks, the heart-wrenching wait continued, and there was no trace of Hunter. Then, on October 21st, a chilling development emerged, but it brought the worst imaginable news. Hunters discovered human remains in an area of the Bruneau Desert in Idaho, which is Oregon's neighboring state to the east. The condition of the remains strongly suggested that the cause of death was anything but natural. Considering the estimated age of the deceased, the Idaho State Police began to suspect that these remains might belong to the missing young man. DNA samples from Hunter's mother were compared against those of the unidentified body, and the devastating confirmation arrived. The remains were indeed those of Hunter. With this tragic revelation, the family's deepest fears became a harsh reality, and the hope of Hunter's safe return faded into nothingness. The circumstances were beyond comprehension. What could have led to the untimely demise of the young father who had been so eager to start his new life? As the details surrounding Hunter's tragic end unfolded, shocking revelations about the individual he had encountered would come to light. The question of why this tragedy occurred in the first place was bound to be addressed, but comprehending the bizarre motives behind it presented an entirely different challenge. In Owyhee County, rumors began to circulate regarding the unsettling discovery. Among the numerous leads that poured in shortly after news of the grim find went public, one particular lead captured the full attention of law enforcement. A man named Nick Vandenberg shared a local news story on social media stating, "This is close to where I live." However, it was his following comment that raised significant eyebrows. "If it was me, I wouldn't have left him in the desert, LOL. Too much risk of hunters stumbling on a dead body, LOL." This was certainly not the kind of response expected in the face of such a tragedy, especially when posted publicly. As law enforcement carefully pursued the leads that had rapidly surfaced, their investigation eventually led them to a young woman named Montana Reed. Montana had been residing in Nick's home until recently and was his ex-girlfriend. On October 24, 2017, 3 days after the remains were discovered, Montana agreed to speak with detectives. Initially, they delved into how she'd come to live with Nick in his home.
Halloween night of last year, I moved in, and I was getting a divorce, and so I just, me and my husband were leaving my mom's house. I couldn't live there anymore, so he offered me a place to stay, and so I was meeting his friends and everybody. I couldn't think of him hurting somebody like that.
Why do people say that he's violent and is capable of doing that?
Because he went to military. I mean, he talks about little stuff from the military, and I mean, he's been in a few bar fights.
Nick claimed that during his service in the Marine Corps, while stationed overseas, he had been involved in combat and had to make the difficult decision of taking lives. This experience had undoubtedly left a deep impact on him. Montana offered some additional insights into Nick's background, shedding light on his upbringing, which had its share of challenges. These circumstances and experiences may have played a role in shaping the person Nick had become.
His growing up, I don't know if you know, but like he was in and out of foster care and all this other stuff, and so...
It appears that Montana wasn't the sole individual to whom Nick had extended an invitation to his home.
What about his roommate?
I couldn't see Keith hurting anybody either. Keith just had a baby, and he's been in jail. He doesn't want to go back at all.
Willie Keith Raby, a 33-year-old man, is someone we will soon hear more about. He has also drawn the attention of law enforcement for several reasons. Montana goes on to provide a detailed account of her experiences and interactions with these two men after having lived with them for an extended period of time.
Neither of them ever showed a violent side to me.
Up to this point, Montana has been speaking positively of the two men. However, as the story unfolds, it becomes evident that her perspective may change. The detective then presents an intriguing question to Montana, setting the stage for further revelations.
Have you seen the news article that came out about the body that was located?
Yeah, I've seen lots of people post on Facebook from around that area, and that it was right out there where we lived, kind of.
And where were they saying the body was located?
I didn't look exactly where, but everybody, like, I know Nick posted on there. He was like, that's pretty much in my backyard. I mean, and Nick just said that the Bruno Desert is where it was found.
Why would Nick talk about this, that he did this to this person?
I don't know. He's not necessarily a show-off, I guess. I don't know why he would be talking about something like that if he didn't do it. And if he did, he's not... Oh my gosh, this is so crazy that he's being accused of this.
No one's accusing him yet.
You just suspect that he did it because people are talking about it.
Did he ever talk to you about the term bunny bumping?
Bunny bumping?
Going out and shooting rabbits in the desert.
Yeah, we did that.
Did he ever talk about going out with Keith?
They went out lots. I mean, not lots, but...
The detective is attempting to measure the extent of Montana's knowledge and awareness regarding the situation.
Point blank, if you knew that he did this, would you tell me?
Of course I would. I don't want to get in trouble for that, for keeping that.
I don't know if Nick did this or not. There are things that point that possibly he did, which means he's a bad person. Or he could not be. So again, I'm trying to reiterate, stay away from the guy, okay?
Okay.
Don't talk to him about this. Don't talk to anybody about this. Something happened, whether he had something to do with it or not, I don't know, but he has told people that he has.
That's crazy, oh my gosh.
The detective inquires about the places they commonly visited for shooting, and it appears that they often frequented an area near the Bruno Desert, which is close to where Hunter's remains were discovered. This line of questioning indicates that the detective is narrowing down their focus on the potential suspect or suspects involved in the case.
I talked to him talking about this stuff, and then that's why I called you.
So you talked to Nick after you talked to me?
Yeah, I told him, because he messaged me, so I tried to, keep it short.
Montana maintains her surprise at the association of Nick's name with Hunter's death. The detective wraps up the conversation, and Montana may assume that her involvement in the matter is over. However, the next day, their meeting suggests that Montana may not have followed the detective's advice or that new developments have emerged, requiring her further involvement.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but I'm guessing since you're talking about the guns, the person that was found was shot. Am I allowed to ask that?
We can't comment on what we have, but
That's a possibility.
let's focus in on what you do know.
Okay.
Montana's actions, including going directly to Nick, can be interpreted in multiple ways. On one hand, she may genuinely be looking out for her friend. On the other hand, her direct approach to Nick might raise suspicions that she could be involved and wants to ensure their stories align. If the detective wasn't suspicious of Montana before, her behavior at this point would likely intensify his scrutiny of her involvement in the case.
I'm glad you called me last night, but I still find it strange that you would even care to even stop and talk to Nick after I've disclosed to you that he is suspected in killing somebody. I can't tell you what we know, but I know you would have been living at a house when this happened. And I don't know how you wouldn't know at least something. Something happened in that time frame between, say, around the 4th of July and the month leading up to everybody moving out of that house.
The police typically can provide information to a potential witness, but they often choose not to do so immediately. This approach allows them to gather a clean account of events from the witness and, if necessary, identify contradictions or falsehoods in the witness's statements. The detective may indeed choose to be more assertive in their questioning, especially if the investigation appears to be stalled or if they believe that the witness might have vital information. This technique can help produce more detailed and accurate responses from the witness.
Keith was on the run. We told him that he needed to go serve his time. Everybody did. But he didn't want to. So I know that Nick pretty much, I don't know if he told him, but I know that Nick didn't want him at the house if he was going to be on the run. I moved out because we were having some issues and with our relationship. One night we got in an argument and I just had it, so I moved out the very next day.
Montana has been providing explanations and accounts of her experiences thus far, and she may continue to do so as the detective intensifies their questioning. Whether these explanations are credible and hold up under scrutiny will be a crucial aspect of the ongoing investigation.
The truth's gonna set everybody free, okay? I know you know something. I'm looking at you right now, and I know you do.
The detective's interest in Montana and Nick's conversation from the previous day reflects their effort to gather more information about the case. Montana's inability to produce the text messages might not directly make her guilty of anything. However, in a legal context, the prosecution could potentially use her habit of routinely deleting messages as a form of consciousness of guilt, if combined with other evidence. The term consciousness of guilt relates to evidence that suggests a defendant was aware of wrongdoing and acted accordingly, such as destroying evidence of a crime. It's a factor that can be considered in court. It's also worth noting that deleted data on phones or computers can sometimes be recovered until new data overwrites it. As Montana maintains her story and expresses disbelief about Nick's involvement, the detective escalates the conversation. This pressure may lead Montana to reveal previously undisclosed details about the case.
I was there.
Montana's shocking statement could have significant implications for the case and the ongoing investigation. It might provide critical information that helps law enforcement in their efforts to reveal the truth about Hunter's death and the events leading up to it.
I don't want him to be in trouble. I don't want him to go to jail. I don't want to go to jail.
Indeed, Montana's revelation raises significant doubt about the accuracy of her previous statements. Her admission of having lied means that her credibility as a witness has come into question, and it will likely have a major impact on the investigation and any legal proceedings related to the case. This turn of events could have serious consequences for both her and the case itself.
I know one day Nick came home with this kid. I don't know his name. He said that he picked him up and he was a hitchhiker. And we were gonna feed him dinner and let him take a shower, and then Nick was gonna drop him off at another place.
Montana's newfound willingness to share information and the substantial details she has to offer mark a key turning point in the case. This development is likely to lead to significant changes in the course of the investigation and could potentially have far-reaching consequences for those involved. It appears that her revelations will be instrumental in uncovering the truth and potentially holding those responsible accountable for their actions.
Give me a time frame, summer. Was it about this party time that we're talking about?
A little bit before.
Okay.
Given that the last communication from Hunter was around June 20th, the detective is likely trying to pinpoint the specific date when Nick picked up Hunter. This information could be crucial in understanding the timeline of events leading up to Hunter's disappearance and subsequent death.
The kid had never went shooting rabbits. We talked about all that sort of stuff. He had never went hunting, really, and he never went shooting rabbits. So the guys were going to take him out, Keith and Nick. So that was their plan, is they were going to take him out to go shooting and then go take him up to Mountain Home. When they got back, he wasn't there anymore. And
You didn't go with him to shoot rabbits?
not that time.
What did Nick tell you about this?
All he said was that they took him out shooting and dropped him off in Mountain Home.
But you said you were there. You know this happened. You're in now. You're on the right path.
It appears that, according to Montana's account, Hunter joined Nick and her for dinner, and afterward, they had plans to show him a good time. This additional information sheds light on the interactions and intentions of the individuals involved on that fateful day.
Yeah, I can do that.
The detective's request for Montana to call Nick while he listens in secretly is a strategic move to potentially gather more information. As the detective mentioned earlier, Nick has shown eagerness to talk to others who have subsequently shared information with the police. This tactic aims to exploit that willingness and potentially produce further details about the case from Nick during their conversation.
So the police left me a message asking about the body.
They wouldn't say that in a message.
Why would they be asking me?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Do you know anything?
No.
Nick's upward inflection when responding with a less than confident no is a noteworthy observation. In a situation where certainty is expected, this kind of inflection can raise suspicions. It suggests that there might be more to the story than what's being conveyed, and it could be a red flag indicating a potential lack of confidence, disingenuousness, or being caught off guard.
Does anybody that you know anything?
Not that I know of. Everybody I've talked to doesn't have any idea what's going on. We're all trying to figure it out too. Because that seems really suspicious to me that they would call you and talk about a body in a message. They would just ask you to return the call.
Nick's increasing suspicion during the call is an interesting development. It may indicate that he's becoming wary of the situation and is possibly realizing that something is amiss. This heightened suspicion on his part could lead to him being more cautious in his responses or behavior.
They wanted to know about the body, and they said that it involved possibly that hitchhiker that you brought home. And you, and I told him that I'd have to call him back later. What's going on?
I don't know, Montana.
Okay.
I don't have any idea.
What happened to the hitchhiker?
I don't know. What's going on?
Because I just want to know. I want to know why they're calling me.
You already know. You know everything I know. So why are you asking me?
Because I just want to ask you, because I don't know what to do. And I'm nervous and...
You have nothing to be nervous about.
Okay.
I picked up 100 hitchhikers over the last 3 years. So, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. Well, I gotta go.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
It seems that the covert call with Nick didn't yield the admission that the detectives were hoping for. As a result, the investigation continues, and the third interview with Montana begins, potentially with new questions and strategies aimed at uncovering more information related to the case.
You recognize that gentleman?
That's the kid. Mm-hmm.
How certain are you?
Pretty certain.
You're sure that that's our missing hitchhiker?
Looks exactly like him.
Okay. Well, I can also say that I'm 100% sure that that's the body we found in the desert.
The pressure on Montana is mounting, and she's likely becoming increasingly aware of the severity of the situation. Simultaneously, the detectives have managed to locate Keith, who has 3 unrelated warrants for his arrest. It's clear that his current mess will prevent him from returning home after this interview. Despite the unrelated warrants, the detective's primary focus is on the more pressing matters related to the case. The forthcoming interview with Keith may hold significant importance in the ongoing investigation.
We have been looking for you because you are not a suspect. You are a witness to what happened that day.
The detective initiates the interrogation with straightforward and simple questions. This approach is often used to establish a starting point for the conversation and potentially build rapport with the interviewee before diving into more detailed or sensitive inquiries.
How long have you known Nick?
So like I said, I've only known him maybe 5 or 6 years
But you grew up in that area out there in
in Grandview, but I don't think Nick really went to school, and he's quite a few years younger than me, so I didn't really hang out with kids that were super young, you know what I mean?
Keith's attempts to distance himself from Nick are notable and raise questions about his motivations. There could be various reasons for his desire to create this separation. It might be to disassociate himself from potential wrongdoing, protect his own interests, or avoid any implication in the ongoing investigation.
It's going to be a good relief for you, I think. Just tell us what happened from the beginning.
Keith's eye-blocking behavior, such as rubbing his face and eyes, indeed suggests that he's uncomfortable and may be experiencing emotional distress during the conversation. It can also act as a physical barrier or a way to create distance between him and the detective. Additionally, it may be an attempt to avoid making direct eye contact, which could be a sign of potential deception or reluctance to share certain details.
So Nick had called, I think I was at work or something, and I was gonna get home late. Nick had messaged me and said that he picked up a hitchhiker and he brought him back to the house. But I knew it was gonna be a while before I got there.
Keith's account, differing from Montana's recollection of the evening, is a significant development in the investigation. It introduces the possibility of conflicting narratives.
Keith wasn't with Nick when Nick picked him up. I think Keith was already at the house.
He started messaging something like he needed to, and don't quote me on that, these aren't his exact words.
Okay.
It was just in reference. It was something like he had like basically like a thirst to kill or something like that.
The discrepancies between Montana and Keith's stories and the mention of alarming urges by Nick are concerning.
Well, throughout the whole night, I thought he was just fucking joking. But then when I showed up at the house, his persona was different.
It wasn't the same Nick that you normally know.
No, it wasn't the same Nick.
And there was a hitchhiker there?
Yeah, there was. We started driving and we started shooting rabbits. And then I remember we go up towards like the Bruno Canyon maybe.
Keith's accidental revelation could be a turning point in the story, potentially disclosing information that was not intended to be shared. Such unintended revelations can hold crucial importance in investigations.
And like Montana, she was sitting in front of me.
Keith's admission that contradicts one of Montana's earlier versions of the story adds further complexity to the situation. Inconsistencies like these can raise serious doubts about the credibility of the individuals involved and the accuracy of their accounts.
You didn't go with him to shoot rabbits?
Not that time.
As the third interview unfolds and the inconsistencies in the stories become apparent, it's likely that Montana is increasingly aware that the pressure is mounting.
You haven't been honest with me. I know you haven't. I went back, I listened to the calls, and I listened to their interview yesterday. You were there when this happened. I have to put Nick in prison, whether you like it or not. And you're going to have to help me do that. Will you do that and tell me exactly what happened?
Yeah.
Montana's shifting account and the realization that she knows more than she initially revealed highlight the complexity of the situation. Her changing story may reflect a growing awareness of the gravity of the case and her own involvement. As self-preservation instincts kick in, she may decide to share previously withheld information, potentially shedding more light on the events surrounding Hunter's death.
So I didn't watch it happen. I looked away because I didn't want to watch it. Keith was in the car with me. He was in the back seat.
The consensus between Keith and Montana, both acknowledging their presence at the time of the murder, is a major breakthrough in the investigation. Their joint admission can potentially provide critical information that assists in understanding the events leading up to Hunter's death and, more importantly, in identifying those responsible for the crime.
Nick let the kid get out and go shoot at a rock.
That kid wanted to shoot one of Nick's bigger guns, rifles. So he's firing it, and
What's he shooting at?
just rock and nothing. There was no rounds there. He was just firing it just so he could fire it, I guess.
What happened next was undeniably disturbing.
I don't know, I just happened to f***ing be watching them. And I seen the kid empty out that gun, and he spun around, and I looked over at Nick, and I seen him with his pistol. And it was down at his hip. And it was pointing right towards him. Because the kid was maybe a little bit farther than that door.
From the wall to the door?
Yeah, a little bit farther from Nick.
Okay.
And then Nick pulled the trigger and shot him right in the stomach.
And Nick got up out of the car and he shot him.
The kid threw Nick's rifle down, and Nick waited till his gun was empty.
That rifle was empty.
Yeah. And the kid couldn't fire back.
And I know that the kid said something.
The kid was screaming, "Why did you do that? Why did you do that? Don't fucking kill me. I have a kid. Don't fucking kill me." And he fell onto his back, and he was trying to kick at Nick, because Nick walked up to him.
And then he fired off 2 more shots.
And then Nick put 2 rounds in his head. I'm standing there in shock, what the f***?
The matching accounts of Nick shooting Hunter provide a clear and consistent picture of that specific event. However, the separation in their versions beyond this point suggests that the circumstances surrounding Hunter's death and the subsequent actions may vary significantly between Montana and Keith. Montana's account, stating that Keith was in the car with her during this time, presents one perspective. On the other hand, Keith's description of a heart-wrenching and savage ambush on the unarmed young man introduces a different narrative.
And he turns towards Nick?
Turns towards Nick and is walking back.
Towards Nick?
Towards Nick, and he gets shot right here.
Okay. In the side of the stomach?
No, it was right, maybe below the rib.
Okay.
And he drops the gun and he's holding himself.
And he's standing up?
He was standing up, yeah. And then he had tripped and fell on his back.
Okay. And Nick walked up to him?
And Nick walked up to him.
And this kid's saying, "Don't shoot me, don't shoot me," whatever he's saying?
Yep. And Nick puts 2 rounds in his head.
What happened, what did Nick do after he shot him in the head?
Looking for casings. He's looking for his shells.
For the pistol?
For the pistol.
What kind of pistol was it?
1911.
What caliber?
45. The Lord's caliber.
Nick's actions have reached peak cruelty and taken things to another level.
The kid was still breathing.
Even though he'd been shot in the head?
Yeah, twice. He was still breathing. So Nick point blank shot him again in the face. And he stopped.
The consistent reference to Hunter as the kid or the body by Montana and Keith is indeed a way to emotionally distance themselves from the gruesome events and the responsibility of Hunter's murder. It reflects a coping mechanism to dissociate from the tragic reality of what occurred, potentially serving as a defense mechanism against the emotional toll of their actions.
This is what I don't understand. Why would you put someone, me and Montana, in a situation that I sure don't want to be in? I don't know about Montana, but I don't want to be in that.
What did you guys do? And I'm saying that as a collective, maybe it was all him.
It seems the story is progressing toward further revelations about the tragic and distressing events that took place.
I'm so fucking, like, what the fuck? I don't have a gun, and I can't just pull the trigger on somebody, you know what I mean? I know it wasn't directed towards me. I know I probably should have fucking done something, but I don't know what the fuck to do.
Nick knew exactly how to handle the situation.
He's like tearing the fucking kid's clothes off because the kid was in our house. Nick's wanting to take all the clothes off except for his underwear because he sat in our house in the fibers. Nick's a smart fucking dude.
So he stripped him of his clothes?
Yeah. Put it all in the bag and burned them.
And then he asked Keith to get out and help him undress him, and they drug him off. I did not watch. I didn't want to watch. I didn't want to be a part of it. I didn't even know what was going on.
He says, help me drag this body over. It's like, fuck, dude, I don't want to do this. And I did.
It appears that Nick's desire to involve Keith in the cleanup might have been a calculated move to reduce the likelihood of Keith reporting him. By making Keith complicit in the events, Nick could discourage Keith from implicating him, as it would also incriminate himself.
After it all went down, Nick went through his belongings and got his ID.
What happened to the ID?
I don't know. I have no idea.
He kept the license of the kid. I don't know where he put it. I don't know if he still has it, but I know that he kept it.
The behavior described, where Nick appears to involve others in the cleanup and attempts to minimize their willingness to report him, can indeed raise concerns and be viewed as a potential warning sign of a dangerous individual. It's an indicator that, if given the opportunity, he might commit such acts again. Determining the motive behind a brutal killing, especially one as shocking as this, can be challenging. Often, such actions may not have a clear or rational motive, at least not in the traditional sense. Motives in cases like these may be rooted in a variety of factors, including psychological issues, personal grievances, or the desire for power and control.
You told me that it's like he had a thirst for blood.
Yeah.
So what makes you tell me that? What was the basis of the context of which you...
I can't remember exactly what was said, but it was along the lines of, this kid's a liar, and I'm going to end it, or I'm going to end him, or something like that.
Keith's revelation that Nick's comments were in the form of text messages sent to him while Hunter was a guest in their home is crucial. It provides a digital record of Nick's statements and could serve as key evidence in the investigation. These messages may shed light on Nick's mindset, potential motives, or his level of premeditation leading up to the tragic events.
Did you have the idea that something bad was going to happen to that kid?
I don't know. It's kind of like mixed feelings. Like, just because Nick was saying that, I didn't really expect that shit to be fucking gonna happen that way.
The inconsistency between Keith's and Montana's accounts of Nick's comments adds to the complexity of the investigation. These differing perspectives could lead to further inquiry and exploration of the evidence to determine the accurate sequence of events and the content of Nick's messages.
But what happened? What transpired with Nick? Because what I'm being told is Nick was going to kill this guy and he had planned on doing it. Hey, did you have any idea that this was going to happen?
I know that Keith and Nick talked about it, and they told me that something was going to happen, but I didn't know what. And once we got out there, I figured it out. I know that after the fact, he would talk about doing it again. That it was a stress relief. Or talk about finding a random person driving down the highway in the middle of Idaho, like on the highway from Idaho to Nevada and just finding a random person and I feel like the car was broke down or something and killing them and driving their car off into the desert and burning it on fire.
The revelation that Nick may have been an aspiring serial killer adds a disturbing dimension to the case. With Keith taken into custody due to his unrelated warrants, the focus of the investigation now turns to Nick, the last individual who might hold the answers to the remaining questions. Nick's interview on October 26 is a critical moment in the investigation as detectives seek to uncover the full extent of his involvement in the murder and gain insights into his motives and actions.
Hey, the reason we wanted to talk to you is because of a body that was found out in the desert.
I heard about that. I actually saw the notice on Facebook, the press release from
Okay, well, some hunters found this body that's out in the desert, right? And contacted the police. They asked us to assist with them. That's why we're here.
Okay.
And we're trying to track down any and everything that we could find out about who this person may be. Okay, and what happened to this person.
Nick's stillness and the indication that he may be in a fight or flight mode, freezing momentarily, is a significant observation. This instinctual response, similar to the freeze response in the animal kingdom, can be indicative of an individual's heightened awareness of a threat or intense emotional state. Detectives often pay close attention to these nonverbal cues, as they can provide valuable insights into an interviewee's psychological and emotional state. In this case, it might be a signal that Nick is aware of the seriousness of the situation and that he may be concealing vital information about the events under investigation.
Your name came up as somebody that we might want to talk to that might know something about this.
Why is that?
Now, I got to tell you straight up, I can't tell you a lot of stuff. I'll tell you what I can. Would you happen to know anything about this body being out in the desert?
I don't know. No, I don't have any idea. I know some people a while back thought I saw a notice saying that a hitchhiker that I had picked up had gone missing.
Nick's confidence and preparedness as he relays his encounter with the hitchhiker during the interview are notable. However, the detective's line of questioning may soon take the conversation in a different direction, potentially revealing inconsistencies or raising questions about his account.
Nick's a smart fucking dude.
Nick's explanation about Hunter eating dinner with him, Keith, and Montana, followed by a rabbit hunting trip, aligns with the general narrative so far. However, the introduction of new information by Nick could be a significant development. Detectives will likely closely analyze this new information to determine how it fits into the overall sequence of events and whether it raises any inconsistencies or concerns in the story.
I asked him where he wanted to go, because I'm obviously not going to drive him to Nebraska. And I said, well, if you haven't eaten, if you're hungry, whatever, I can take you home, make dinner. I got to make dinner anyway. And I can bring you back to town tonight or in the morning. Save you that much time. And he said, all right.
The introduction of the mention of inappropriate comments is a major addition to the narrative, and it may indicate an attempt by Nick to paint a different picture of the events. It seems that Nick is trying to present himself as a kind stranger who took in a hitchhiker, offered him dinner, and subsequently dropped him off at a gas station, framing his actions in a positive light.
Came back to the house. He had made a comment about Montana. I was not excited about his comment about Montana. Some sexual stuff about wondering if she would sleep with him and all this. And I said no, because at the time Montana and I were semi-seeing each other.
Okay.
I took him to the Chevron Mountain Home. It was after dark. I don't even know what time it was. Took him to Chevron Mountain Home, gave him $20 cash, two $10 bills, I think it was. And that was the last time I saw or heard from him until somebody said they seen a missing poster with his name on it.
The detectives have posed a crucial question that challenges Nick's narrative, and it may be difficult for him to provide a convincing explanation.
What would you think if I told you that I thought the guy that was out there in the desert is the same guy?
The same person.
That you described to me.
I think that's kind of crazy, to say the least. A little uncomfortable at the same time. Because that would instantly point a finger at me, being the last person that saw him, had a meal with him.
Nick's apparent reaction to the pressure, combined with the realization that his current version of events may not be convincing, is a critical moment in the interview. Detectives are likely closing in on the truth, and Nick may be struggling with the challenge of maintaining a consistent and plausible narrative.
What would you say if I told you that he was out in that general area that you described to me as well?
Around Shoe Fly?
In the desert out there, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Is it well known out there for people to go out there?
Yeah, all kinds of people go through the desert out there shooting rabbits or
whatever. You know, we did talk to Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And she told us some of the same stuff that you've said, but some of it's a little different.
Okay.
Okay. We talked to Keith.
Okay.
And he told us some stuff too, but some of it's a little different.
Okay.
Okay. So that's why we wanted to talk to you.
I understand completely.
Okay. The story they told us has a different kind of an ending.
Really?
Yeah. So we want to talk to you about that and see what the ending really is.
Okay.
The detective's decision to exit the room and then return to directly confront Nick could indeed be a strategic move. It's a common tactic used in interrogations to create a sense of uncertainty or vulnerability in the interviewee.
You know, the story that we were hearing is that the hunter never came back from the hunting trip.
Really?
Shooting rabbits.
Nick decides to pose questions in an attempt to regain some control over the conversation or to redirect the focus away from the detective's line of questioning.
I know you were involved in what happened with him. Now, hold on. Let me finish it. I'd like you to tell us the truth. I know that you guys were out shooting rabbits. Well, I know that. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a doubt. I know that you guys you had picked him up as he was hitchhiking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I know that you had some drinks, smoked some weed with him, took him out for a drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that at the end of the drive, he stayed there. And he stayed there because he was shot. I know that. I also know that he was shot with a 1911 45.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Which you had.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? I also know that you shot him.
Nick's attempt to provide a new story to the detective, especially when he realizes he's unlikely to escape the situation, marks an important development in the interview. It's not uncommon for individuals in such situations to fabricate stories in a desperate attempt to avoid trouble.
And why would you say that?
Because I know that.
How do you know that?
I have the proof. I have the 45 bullets. I also have witnesses that were out there that said that you did it.
Nick's confession to shooting Hunter, even if framed as a reflex due to military training, is a key revelation in the case. However, it appears that Nick is making a last-ditch effort to shift the blame onto Hunter by assassinating his character. This tactic can be seen as an attempt to lessen his own accountability in the crime. Nick claims of making a shocking discovery in Hunter's belongings prior to burning evidence. Detectives will likely need to investigate the authenticity of this claim and assess whether it has any relevance to the case.
Do you want to tell us about what happened out there?
Yeah. But we were out there shooting rabbits, drinking, and we got out. He had said he wanted to shoot. He shot at a rock. He just started shooting at it. And I was like, don't shoot at the rock, like ricochets happen. And he said, it'll be okay. And he turned around, and I was standing just outside the driver's door, and he turned around and I heard the gun click. And I reacted.
And what'd you do?
I shot him. I went back to the same thing I was trying to do.
In the military.
Mm-hmm. And even afterwards, Keith looked at me and he's like, that wasn't you. And I said, well,
Then,
in a way that is me.
It's evident that the detective remains skeptical of Nick's evolving narrative. As the interview is about to conclude, Nick's account of the gunshots that ended Hunter's life could provide key information to the investigation.
He had grabbed my stuff from the Marine Corps. I have a set of dog tags and a little crystal image of myself from boot camp.
Mm-hmm.
And then my ribbons.
He had that stuff in
and
his...
it was in his backpack, along with a set of my hunting knives.
Really? So he was in the
that-
process of stealing from you.
And that just pissed me off even more, I think.
Okay.
Nick claims to have given Hunter a mercy killing,
You got the one in the stomach, and then the one in the face. And I've heard so many people struggling to breathe, and I couldn't listen to it. It's just one of those kind of triggered me. So just double tap real quick.
To his head?
Yeah.
Okay.
Refusing to disclose the gun's location could indeed be a strategic move by Nick. By retaining control over this piece of evidence, he may attempt to exert power and maintain a level of influence in the situation. Given that he has already confessed to the killing, revealing the gun's location is an important piece of the puzzle. It's something he can control, and he may use it as leverage or to negotiate certain terms or conditions in the ongoing investigation.
In the 1911?
The one I shot him with is buried in the desert.
Okay. Where out in the desert?
I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay.
You'll never get that from me.
Okay.
Nick's statement that the murder hasn't bothered him in the least is an unsettling admission. It suggests a lack of remorse or empathy for his actions, which can be deeply concerning. When he mentions that it's like putting on a mask, he may be referring to the idea that he can hide his true nature and intentions beneath a facade of normalcy and deception. This type of behavior is often associated with individuals who can appear ordinary while concealing disturbing and dangerous tendencies beneath the surface.
Feel better to get off your chest a little bit? The whole situation didn't even weigh on me. I don't know. The easiest way to explain it would be like putting a mask on.
Nick's decision to call someone, believed to be his mother, from prison is an intriguing development. It suggests that he may still hold on to the belief that he can influence the situation or potentially evade the legal consequences he faces.
Well, you have to be arrested.
I completely understand. I'd prefer you read me my rights first, though. On the tape, with everything else.
I'm not going to read you your rights right now because I'm not going to ask you any more questions. Okay? But we are going to arrest you.
All right.
All right? So do me a favor. Turn around, put your hands up on the wall there.
Nick's belief that because he wasn't read his rights, nothing he said the previous day can be held against him is indeed a common misconception. If an individual voluntarily goes to the police station for questioning and is not in custody, Miranda rights do not need to be read. However, anything they say voluntarily can still be used in court. Montana's decision to meet with a detective again for one last interview is interesting. She may have crucial information to share that could shed further light on the case, potentially providing valuable insights into the events leading up to Hunter's death and the roles of those involved. Her perspective is likely to play a significant role in the ongoing investigation.
Hello?
Hello?
What happened, Nick?
Well, for right now, it's murder one.
I know. Who was it?
It was that hitchhiker.
Why?
There's a lot that went into it, Ma.
That's why you were so infatuated with it. That's why you called me, isn't it?
With what?
As soon as you knew that that body had been found.
No. Anything I got from the yesterday isn't going to count for shit anyway.
Why is that?
Because I never read any of my rights.
The fact that Montana is sharing a story that has been heard before, but now includes horrifying information suggests that there are new and unsettling details being added to the narrative.
He talked about doing it more afterwards, like going and on Highway 51 out in the middle of nowhere and acting like his car was broke down and then end up killing whoever stopped and taking their car out into the desert and burning it on fire.
The revelation that Nick's plan was to commit more murders raises a deeply unsettling question about the potential victims and the extent of harm he could have inflicted.
He talked about doing that. He talked about paying up more hitchhikers. He told me and Keith that it was our turn next. He wanted a little community of little killers. And I went along with it because I didn't know what else to do.
The detective's question, which follows the revelation of Nick's plan to commit more murders, is undoubtedly gripping. It points to the potential implications of Nick's background and service history in the military, which may provide context for his actions and motivations.
Did Nick kill anybody else?
Not that I know of. He never talked about it. I never went after that. He just said that he wanted to.
Did he pick up any hitchhikers that you know of?
After that, no.
The revelation that Nick may have been lying about committing acts that he likely only fantasized about is disturbing but not uncommon in cases involving individuals with violent or criminal intentions. Some individuals may exaggerate or fabricate their actions or intentions to gain a certain reputation or manipulate others.
Did he ever, besides his fake Afghanistan stories where he said he killed people, which aren't true, did he ever talk about killing anybody outside of the military?
Yes, he did. He said when he lived in Caldwell, people would hire him, kind of. They would pay him to go take care of people that they didn't like.
Nick's belief that he has the upper hand and his discussions with someone believed to be his father about the case, as recorded in a call, indicate his ongoing attempts to navigate the situation in his favor. Such calls are typically monitored, and the content can be used as evidence. Nick's confidence in this conversation may be misguided, especially if there is substantial evidence against him.
There has been a warrant for your arrest.
Okay.
We'll take you from here. You'll get booked into the Twin Falls County Jail.
Okay.
You'll be arraigned probably tomorrow. And you'll end up being transported most likely to the Owyhee County Jail. Keith's also just got arrested today too. You knew that Nick did. Nick did confess to this. The case against him is unbelievably strong based on what we've found.
Nick's conversation with a woman believed to be his new girlfriend, where he discusses an incriminating find that has surfaced in the case against him, suggests that he is aware of potential evidence that could be used against him.
I don't know if they've got all their ducks in a row yet.
I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I don't think they got it all together, and I don't think they've got enough evidence to do a whole lot.
The sentencing outcomes for Nick, Montana, and Keith reflect the legal consequences they faced for their involvement in the tragic events surrounding Hunter's death. Nick's decision to take a plea deal and receive a life sentence with a possibility of parole after 30 years indicates his acknowledgement of the seriousness of the crimes he committed. Montana's guilty plea to criminal conspiracy and failure to notify authorities of a death resulted in a 15-year sentence with a possibility of parole after serving 5 years. Keith's guilty plea to accessory to first-degree murder, evidence destruction, and failure to notify authorities of a death led to a 26-year sentence with the possibility of parole after serving 11 years. Remember, it's your curiosity that fuels this channel. Keep exploring, stay inspired, and join us for more amazing content next time.